Imagine a grandmother, 60 years old, standing on a battlefield, gun in hand, defying one of the most powerful empires in the world. Not in fiction, not in folklore, in real life. Her enemies had more soldiers, more weapons, and more money. She had none of that. But what she had was heart, fire, and the courage of an entire nation behind her. So why would a grandmother, someone known for peace, wisdom, and nurture, risk her life and lead her people into war? That question sparked one of the boldest uprisings in African history, and today we'll find out why. Yaa Asantewaa was born around 1840 in the town of Besize, in what is now modern-day Ghana. She was born into royalty, not the kind of royalty you see in castles, but the matrilineal system of the Ashanti Empire, where lineage and power were passed down through the mother's bloodline. Her brother, Afrainpanen, was a powerful chief of Ejisu, one of the states within the Ashanti kingdom. Yaa Asantewaa learned a lot by observing him, how he dealt with disputes, advised his people, and made decisions during times of conflict. She wasn't just a bystander, she was active, intelligent, and deeply respected. When her brother died, she was chosen as Queen Mother of Ejisu, a role that combined politics, spirituality, and leadership. In Ashanti society, women, especially Queen Mothers, were not silent. They advised kings, nominated successors, and could even veto a candidate for kingship. Yaa Asantewaa was no ordinary woman. She was wise, strategic, and passionate about protecting her people. But it wasn't until decades later that her true strength would be tested. During Yaa Asantewaa's time, the Ashanti Empire was under pressure. The British Empire was expanding aggressively in West Africa. By the late 1800s, the British had already taken control of coastal areas of Ghana, and were eyeing the rich and well-organized Ashanti lands inland. The Ashanti had wealth, especially in gold, and had their own army, tax system, and central government, but the British wanted more. They demanded full control. In 1896, the British launched a major assault. They captured the Ashanti king Prempeh I and exiled him, along with other chiefs and royals, to the Seychelles Islands. This was not just a military victory, it was psychological warfare. They thought by removing the leaders, they could break the spirit of the Ashanti. But the Ashanti people were not so easily broken, and the breaking point came in 1900. To understand what happened next, you need to understand the Golden Stool. The Golden Stool is not just a royal seat, it is sacred. Ashanti people believe it holds the soul of the nation, past, present, and future. It is a symbol of unity, identity, and independence. It is never to be sat on, not even by the king himself. It is carried, honored, and protected. In March 1900, British Governor Frederick Hodgson made a huge mistake. He demanded to sit on the Golden Stool. He wanted it brought to him, and he wanted to sit on it to symbolize British rule over the Ashanti. To the Ashanti people, this wasn't just disrespectful, it was spiritual violence. It was like trying to erase their entire identity, and that's when Yaa Asantewaa had had enough. A meeting was held between Ashanti chiefs and leaders to decide what to do. Many were afraid. Their king was in exile. Their weapons were limited. The British had modern guns and reinforcements. But in that moment of hesitation, Yaa Asantewaa stood up. She looked around at the silent men and declared, "Yaa Asantewaa, VO. Now I have seen that some of you fear to go forward to fight for our king. If it were in the brave days of Osei Tutu, Okomfo Anokie, and Opoku Ware, chiefs would not sit down to see their king taken away without firing a shot. If you, the men of Ashanti, will not go forward, then we will. We, the women, will fight. I shall call upon my fellow women. We will fight till the last of us falls in the battlefields." She didn't wait for permission. She began rallying troops, both men and women, and thus began the War of the Golden Stool, led by a grandmother. The war began in April 1900. Yaa Asantewaa's forces laid siege to the British fort in Kumasi, where Hodgson and his troops were stationed. She used guerrilla tactics, ambushes, blockades, and psychological pressure. Her warriors cut off food supplies and communication lines. The British, stuck in the fort, were under siege for weeks. The resistance shocked the British. They hadn't expected such a fierce and well-organized rebellion, especially not led by a woman. But despite their bravery, the Ashanti were outgunned. The British eventually brought reinforcements. More soldiers, more firepower, more destruction. After several months of intense fighting, Yaa Asantewaa was captured, along with some of her fellow leaders. They were exiled to the Seychelles, just like King Prempeh before her. She died there in 1921. She never saw her homeland again. Even though the British won the war militarily, they lost morally. Yaa Asantewaa became a symbol of African resistance, especially for women. She reminded the world that African women were not silent. They were not weak. They were warriors, leaders, mothers, and revolutionaries. In 1957, when Ghana became the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence, Yaa Asantewaa's name was shouted from rooftops. She was honored in poems, songs, schools, and monuments. Today, her legacy lives on. In Ghana, the Yaa Asantewaa Girls' Secondary School was established to honor her memory and promote the power of women in education and leadership. She remains one of the most inspiring figures in African history. Let's go back to that first question. Why would a grandmother lead a war? Because to Yaa Asantewaa, peace without freedom was not peace at all. She saw her culture, her people, and her soul being erased. And she chose to fight, not because she loved war, but because she loved her people more than fear. She showed us that age is no limit, gender is no boundary, and courage comes in many forms. Yaa Asantewaa didn't just fight for her kingdom, she fought for all of us. To remind the world that Africa's history is filled with queens, warriors, and revolutionaries. And that's a story that must never be forgotten. If this story moved you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our Clear African Tales. We're telling the stories history forgot, but our hearts remember. Comment below, should we explore the story of Queen Nzinga next? Or maybe the warrior kings of Mali? Let us know who you want to hear about.